Hello all. Today I'll be dealing with the topic themes of the play August Osage County by Tracy Letts. So Tracy Letts is an American actor, playwright and screenwriter. He has started his career as at the Stephen Wolfe Theatre before making his Broadway debut as a playwright for August Osage County, for which he received the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 2008 and the Tony Award for Best Play. August Osage County is a black comedy first staged at the Stephen Wolfe Theatre in June 2007, and the play centers on a tense family reunion in a small Oklahoma town. The play is dominated by Violet Weston, an eccentric family matriarch who has a contentious relationship with her husband and children. Now, when a family tragedy brings all the survivors together again, old wounds and hurts are reopened as the family is forced to confront its past and present. The play is set during several weeks in August. The play explores themes of family, secrets, and small town Americana in an unflinching tone. August Osage County is considered the defining works of Tracy Letts' career and one of the best modern American plays. Now moving on to the themes, the first theme is emotional violence. Violence and abuse, both psychological and physical, have seeped into every corner of Western household and into nearly every line of August Osage County. The play is about a family that does not know how to be good to one another as a result of generational trauma, addictive behavior, broken promises, and dangerous secrets. And it seems for much of the action that violence and abuse are inevitable byproducts of such sadness, tension, and brokenness. As a result, there are a number of scenes that shows the characters abusing and fighting with one another in profoundly wounding ways. Violet is the main catalyst for the emotional violence in the play. Given her own wounds from having been abused as a child, her battle with mouth cancer, and her addiction to pills, especially downers. So, from the moment Violet is first shown with her daughters, Tracy Letts establishes the emotionally violent atmosphere that Violet perpetuates in order to maintain power over her three children. Violet begins by attacking her daughter Ivy's appearance, telling Ivy that straightening her hair was a mistake, encouraging her to wear makeup, and telling her that she looks like a lesbian and needs to spruce up in order to attract men. So from this scene alone, it is clear that Violet attempts to beat her daughters down and level the sense of confidence in order to retain power over them. She has clearly been successful with Ivy, who has stayed in her hometown all her life and who is single despite being in her mid-40s. But Violet's abuse of Barbara is different and more insidious. Violet is not only the one in the play who uses emotional violence and abuse as a way to establish power. Mattie, who is nearly as sharp-tongued and cruel as her older sister, uses similar patterns to maintain control over her only son, Little Charles. So, Little Charles, like Ivy, lives close to home and has remained unmarried. And like Ivy, Little Charles must daily bear the brunt of his mother's anger. Though the reasons behind Mattie's abuse of Little Charles are very different from that of Violet's cruelty towards Ivy, it becomes clear that Tracy Letts is arguing that violence and abuse more often than not consciously employed methods of securing and maintaining power over other individuals. And the next theme is parents, children, and inheritance. August Osage County is fundamentally a story about the inheritance of trauma, and parenting plays a significant role in the drama. The play examines the ways that parenting styles can wound a child. Trauma, talent, self-loathing, predispositions toward addiction make their way from generation to generation in a combination of genetics, behavioral influence, and an element, at least in the world of this play of fate. For example, the couple Mattie and Charlie have vastly different parenting styles. Mattie is often outspoken and belittling towards her mild-mannered and unambitious son, Little Charles. whereas Charlie is calmer and more accepting with his parenting, and their different styles clash on more than one occasion. Whereas Barbara and Bill also have different parenting. While Barbara dislikes the idea that Jean is smoking at the age of 11, Bill is more permissive and absent. Their different approaches ultimately drive them apart. Finally, the most notable parent in the play is Violet Weston, a ferocious and nasty woman who belittles her children for leaving her, tells them she is keeping all of Beverly's estate for herself, and hurls insults at them whenever possible. She herself came from an abusive parenting arrangement, as said before, and she has passed along the violence she endured to her children. Thus, as Weston struggles to understand the traits their parents have thrust upon them, and indeed the things they have forced, willingly or not, upon their own children, Tracy Letts tries to highlight the inevitability of inheritance and all the burdens contained with it. Now, another important theme in the play is addiction. As much of the play is about addiction and emotional tension within a family, it is also about the very concrete toll that addiction takes not only on an individual but on their associates. We're introduced to the two main addicts in the play, Violet and Beverly, in the prologue of the play itself. Violet is the most obvious and outlandish addict in the play, while Beverly was a self-admitted alcoholic at the time of his death, and he had chosen to nurse his addiction rather than try to escape it. Violet spends much of her first half of the play denying her narcotics addiction to everyone around her, even as she pops pills in plain sight. As the open secret of Violet's addiction is dissected piece by piece, her behavior is revealed to be a cover for much darker impulses and a way for her to numb herself to the painful secrets of her own past. When Violet first appears, she descends the stairs in a state of disarray, mumbling incoherently, lurching around the house erratically, and lashing out against Beverly in abusive verbal attacks. So this behavior provides context for Beverly's twinned senses of hopelessness and desperation. So Violet is a woman beyond saving. Her recent diagnosis with a touch of cancer of the mouth has allowed her to legitimize her use of pills as a practical antidote to the hellish side effects of chemotherapy. And Beverly knows that he cannot do anything to stop his wife from pursuing her addiction, which seems to be her only one joy in life. By the end of the play, Violet has lost everyone she claimed to love: her daughters, her sister, and her husband. Each and every one of them is as much a victim of Violet's addiction as she is herself. So, through Violet, Tracy Letts is making a larger comment on what addiction can do, not just to individuals but to families. Tracy Letts ultimately suggests that addiction often masks other impulses, tendencies, or shameful secrets, and that without attending to those demons, the specter of addiction can never be defeated. Another theme is the patriarch and the American memory. The disappearance of Western clan's patriarch Beverly structures the play's first act, and the void left in the wake of his loss forms both the logistical and emotional framework for the rest of the action. Now, Beverly becomes an almost mythical figure as the drama unfolds, an archetype symbolic of the death of a vision of America that no longer exists. The play is set in mid 2007, as said before, and which is a crucial moment in American patriotism and paranoia. And August Osage County uses Beverly's death to stimulate the end of a certain era in American life. That is to suggest the irrelevance of the greatest generation. That is who grew up in that depression and went on to fight in the World War II, and to reject the idea that America's most important years are in its past. And the moment in which Beverly metaphorically renounces his role as a patriarch and puts the care of himself and his wife in the hands of a native woman from a younger generation It is not only symbolic of Beverly's preparation for his own literal demise, but of his preparation for the figurative demise of his generation has exerted over America. He lends the volume of Eliot, and he is making one final half-hearted attempt to pass on the wisdom of his own generation. Now, this gesture has an irony, which is that Eliot, though he was born in America, he defected to England at an early age and renounced his American passport. So, a member of the generation before Beverly's, it is T.S. Eliot, had already seen the fruitlessness and the death in American routine. And a major rift between the Western daughters and their mother is a generational one. And in the scene that begins at Act 3, the sisters complain that their mother is remorseless because she is a member of the greatest generation, and as such she still believes in an American dream that no longer quite exists. Barbara says, I quote, "And what makes them so great anyway? Because they were poor and hated Nazis?" Unquote. To Barbara, while its main problem is that, like other members of her generation, she believes she is above blame. She even equates her father's disillusionment with life, with his disillusionment with the country, the fact that he sees America as a failure. And Tracy Letts uses the canvas of August Osage County to examine the anxieties unique to a world in flux as his characters wrestle with political correctness, the death of their dreams and aspirations, and the demands of modern American life. The symbolic death of Western patriarch sets the stage for the play's larger symbolic tilt. It is the death of the received social order of contemporary America. Now, the last theme is family responsibility and entrapment. The atmosphere of Western clan's ancestral home is stifling and tightly controlled, and the effects of such an environment on the individuals made to endure to become increasingly sinister as the play unfolds. As tensions mount and the horrible secrets come to life, Tracy Letts paints a picture of mechanisms of the responsibility and entrapment that keep people tied to abusive and miserable families. When Barbara arrives with her husband Bill and her daughter, she comments right away on the oppressive heat. Now, this itself is a symbol throughout the novel for control, suffocation, and entrapment. Barbara, as her parents' eldest child, is given task after painful task once she arrives home. It is Barbara who has to go identify Beverly's body once it is drenched up out of the local lake. It is Barbara who leads the pill raid once she realizes that her mother is, for at least the second time in her life, hooked on narcotics. It is Barbara who must retain with her mother alone in the house that she hates after nearly everyone else in the family has up and left. With each task, Barbara is actually pulled deeper into her family's web, and towards the end of the play, it seems that Barbara has failed and once for all to get herself back out. Meanwhile, Karen is characterized as a narcissistic dimwit clinging desperately to a sense of elaborately constructed optimism. She prattles on about the happiness she has in Florida with her new fiancé. Whereas Ivy's experience of entrapment at the hands of her parents is so profound that she cannot conceive of a life or relationship outside her family. This is reflected in her choice to pursue a romance with her cousin Little Charles. And when Little Charles is revealed to be Ivy's half-brother, it symbolizes that Ivy is more entrapped within her family that she would like to believe. Thus, in creating a sense of entrapment, claustrophobia, and inescapability, Tracy Letts turns the Western home into a house of horrors which releases the members of Western clan only when they have declared their intent to cut all ties to the rest of the family. Tracy Letts paints a dark but compelling portrait of family as a kind of rat trap, which means something one can only escape by destroying a small part of oneself. Likewise, that the only way to escape a broken family is to sever oneself from their origins entirely, leaving behind any or all chances of being pulled back in. So that's it, friends. Thank you.